Today on TFL Bike, we're out here at Indy Motorsports Ranch taking a look at the brand new Harley-Davidson Road Glide ST with Kyle Wyman, king of the baggers himself. And instead of me just talking about the bike a bunch, what we're gonna do is we're going to take him off of his race bike and put him on the factory bike, because you've seen him ride that around, but now you get to see what he can do with a factory bike. The main purpose of this video is just to watch Kyle get out there and rip on his bike. So I'm gonna stop talking and let you see exactly what he does on one of these factory machines around the track. And if you want to stick around to the end of the video, he and I are going to talk all about his race bike as well as this factory bike and the similarities between them. So super fun watching you rip around on the factory bike because, I mean, like watching me ride, not that exciting. What's it like to hop on one of these factory bikes and push it to the limit? Does it feel out of place, or does it feel pretty happy to do that?
No, it feels right at home, honestly. You know, for sure that the race bike has a lot more available lean angle, and it has a lot more, braking power and things that are more geared for racing. But the ST is such a capable machine, honestly. You have more lean angle than your standard, Road Glide Special, so it gives you a couple more degrees on each side. Gives a little bit more performance with the 117 as well, which is the first time it's available in a non-CVO product. So I think it's really, it's a lighter motorcycle as well because it's been stripped down of all the, passenger pegs and seat, and it's a true performance production bike.
And there's a few things I like that are kind of mimicking some of the King of the Baggers style. The look of the lifted bags on the side, it reduces your capacity a little bit, but it does give it just slightly more of that King of the Baggers race bike stance. And there are actually some similarities between these two bikes. I mean, your race bike shares a few parts with this. So when you hop from your race bike onto a factory bike, what's one thing that surprises you about them that actually makes them similar?
Well, they feel surprisingly similar because, with the rules in our racing series, we have to use a stock frame.
Right.
So this is a completely stock FL frame from Harley-Davidson. Fuel tank, obviously we've added a little bit of an ergonomic help with this pommel so I can use my lower body to kind of leverage the bike a little bit more.
Okay.
The pegs are moved quite a bit, obviously from front floorboards down to these pegs that are more in a sport bike orientation. The pegs are actually part of the CNC transmission cover and primary cover on the left side. So the pipe is also up off the ground. These long FGR 250 forks from Öhlins and the longer shocks from Öhlins as well really get the thing up off the ground and give us that ground clearance. These are actually the same, really the same shocks other than the length as what's available in the Screaming Eagle parts catalog as well. So that's pretty cool. And then of course 17-inch wheels front and back so we can use a traditional racing slick.
What you were mentioning with the ergonomics on this bike, very different from standard, obviously. I mean, any race bike is going to have a much higher seat height, and you can tell this seat is way built up. And of course, like you were mentioning, your pegs are in a way different position. The seat height being this high, is that just part of you guys being able to come off of the bike? Why do you need to be up this far?
Well, for sure, when you think about your peg to seat distance, Right. You have to have that relatively normal. So really the first iteration of the bike I rode, the seat was kind of where it usually is, and the pegs were up off the ground, and I felt like my knees were in my chest. So it's like, well, we got to scale it up a little bit. So we started raising the seat, adding more and more foam to get to where we had a comfortable peg to seat height, and this is where we ended up. And obviously there's a lot of foam in this seat, and then having that extra, leverage there. For sure, it gets you more in a more aggressive stance, more of a road racing style stance. We've got a lot more weight over the front. We've got our knee out. We've got our knee dragging on the ground. So definitely a little bit different riding position, but surprisingly similar how they feel.
And then you look at this bike and you see carbon fiber all over it, and you think, yeah, this is a full-on race bike. It's probably nothing like the factory bike, but you guys are required to have these weigh at least 635 pounds, you said?
Yeah, in the 2021 series, which is this bike's the championship winning bike from that series, it was 635 as a minimum. For 2022, they've actually lowered the minimum weight to 620. Still a very heavy motorcycle.
Yeah, that's still a lot of bike.
But yeah, we're actually able to do a little bit more to reduce the weight. So, but yeah, 635 dry.
And then you guys have a race version of the Screaming Eagle 131 engine. Have you guys had this engine on the dyno? Do you know what the exact output is?
It's over 150 horsepower, I can tell you that. And I know that the 131 crate motor gets pretty close to that. I think it's in the it's 131 foot-pounds to the rear, I think, to the rear wheel. So,
right.
Or 131 horsepower to the rear wheel. So, yeah, it's a pretty serious machine. We've obviously gone a little bit above and beyond the crate motor that's available, that's compliant in all 50 states. It was never designed from the get-go to be doing this, but to see how quickly we're able to adapt it for racing shows how versatile it actually is as a bagger.
And it's especially surprising being that, like you said, it is a factory frame, and you said even the geometry, like, I mean, the front suspension, the angle that the forks are at, none of that is
none
changed
of that's
other
been
than
modified.
just the height.
Yeah,
of the
I mean,
bike, right?
it's shockingly close to, you know, your standard numbers, like your rake degrees and things. You know, obviously more swing arm angle with more height, you know, a lot more height in the front, but you know, it's shockingly similar.
That's pretty cool. And then one last question. So going into this 2022 season for King of the Baggers, what are we looking at with next year's race bike? How is that coming? What's going to be different? And what can we expect for that season?
Yeah, so I actually got to run my first few laps on it today. So it's mostly just refining things, making them easier to work on, easier to last longer with certain parts. We've improved. You know, we now have a full fork from Owens that has you know, a full foot that's designed specifically for baggers.
Right.
So Owens is jumping in with both feet. We have a new swing arm, which I'm sure you've seen. It's just an absolute piece of art. And a little bit of ergonomics changes, a little bit of change to the tank shape, and you know, just little things. You know, it's little things. We're shockingly close to the limit, to where we're not making wholesale changes to the motorcycle, where we're just kind of refining stuff at this point.
Which also makes sense given that, well, last year's season ended the way that it did. If it ain't broke,
how we want to end it, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So you guys have a great formula here. Cool looking bike. Unbelievable to see these ripping around. And congrats, like I'm sure you've heard many times on the win, man. It's really cool to see. So let us know what you guys think down in the comments below. Just super badass to get out on these bikes and watch you rip around on the track, just unedited. Again, that's a lot more interesting than watch me ride.
Well, we appreciate it.
So,
thanks for coming out.
Thanks for your time.
Great.